Hey everybody, welcome to mondayslive.com, also mondays.org. I'm the progenitor, you could say today's host, and I guess what else does it say? Oh, MC, Master of Ceremony. So what is this? So last month, January, part of one of my New Year projects, I launched Mondays as a way to do motivation on Monday morning. So I love the M's, right? So I'm Michael. You can find my website at drmike.org. And this was just one of the ideas. I have a background as a motivation seminar promoter. Back in the day, I promoted the big names. And so I thought, well, isn't it amazing that unless you are part of already a coaching group or a team, like you're on some kind of club, there's nothing for you to kick off the week. And even in those regards, unless you have a sales manager or your boss saying, "Yeah, it's Monday morning, come on, coffee down, let's go." I thought, why not do something more elegant where you get people to kick off their Monday and kind of bring us back? Because you know how people normally regard Monday, the attitude of Mondays. So we want to make it exceptional in the way that Monday morning motivation is a meeting of our minds, but taking it to the construction of like, well, I'm going to make this the best week, the best month ever, and the best year ever, and the best decade, and the best life. I guess I missed quarter. Like, yeah, we're going to make it a really great time. So if you go back into our archive and list, since January, we've been featuring different speakers every week, and we've tried out different approaches, a little bit from a little bit of interview, or just, hey, just make it a little bit of a workshop, or just talk. Can you be a motivation guru to us, please? So what is this? Well, so Mondays would be one way for us to come together and kick off the week. And the idea would be that we would have a VIP section. So the upfront live stream is free. It's our community contribution, folks, because we want to make a difference in your life. So come to us. So check out mondays.org and you really will find out more information about me as a social scientist, not just being the guy who's going to cover up his name, but more to the identity of like, well, I'm experimenting. This is one of my community contributions. But at the same time, I'm looking to make a difference. And how can we come together and get the best of practice and ways to kick off the week? So Mondays would be that. So Mondays VIP would be this coaching behind the scenes opportunity. With spend more time with speakers and experts and access resources and materials that wouldn't be available elsewhere otherwise, at least in a combination of the way we're doing it, kicking off the week every Monday. So I'm all about communities, I mentioned. So community conversations, just to give you a little bit of backstory, was my dissertation. Yeah, so you can see that I'm a PhD. And to me, it's like Michael Ratner ADHD, because that's sort of the social realm as a social scientist I'm exploring in my own life. Being in New York right now has really been a fantastic experience. So I'm engaging community as I can. If you know me, I'm very talkative, and I just don't have that many people in my space in Waukesha, Wisconsin. Not to put it down, it's a beautiful place to be, and I've rented a place for a year now. I don't think I'm going to renew the lease. I was going to launch a podcast channel, and across the hall was a radio station, but they moved. Rare for radio stations to move, but they actually bought a building where the transmitter is located. So that makes a little bit more sense. And then it's not down the street, it's like way down to another city, almost to Illinois. So I find myself kind of in the quandary. I love my kids and having a great experience. So as a social scientist, I'm sort of taking this in, like, what am I observing? How am I interpreting it, my own experience? And in own way, by not necessarily judging, but divining it. So it's sort of like filtering into some kind of teaching, at least let's say study of this. So I call it the CARES model, CARES, and this is a part of it. So the CARES model stands for community action, which is research on how our engagement can improve our lives. And the ultimate goal in this construct of looking at community contribution, the quality of our conversation reflects some level of consciousness, does it not? So that's what gets me excited to explore enlightenment. And that's what the CARES approach is all about, community action research on engagement as enlightenment. And this becomes our study. Wow, that's pretty profound, Dr. Mike. Yes. So I need help in doing surveys and doing this community action research. That could be through the form of engagement and just studying surveys, just follow up, all kinds of things. And coming together on Mondays was one way to sort of at least come together on Monday and kick off my other projects, which are at least commercially related, a community conversations organization, communityconversations.com and .org, that we just bring together other community leaders that are already doing this and sort of enlighten our best practices, and look at how we can explore and do this community action research in a way that informs us elegantly. So it's not like we're trying to promote anything other than like, hey, we're showing up, we're on time, we're loving it, we're engaging, and we're open to what the observation is revealing. And this is phenomenology. So phenomenology is to study the structure of our experiences. So as a social scientist, this is what I'm studying, and that's what I'm currently writing about. So I'm shortening phenomenology, or the phenom. So the phenomena is that, hey, we're having this experience, we're here and now, we're alive. So I'm calling it the phenom. So P-H-E-N-O-M, because it short and makes sense. So the phenom is what we're experiencing in the here and now. Let's explore this. What is this? Woo! It doesn't have to be woo. It's simply just observation. What's my experience? And sort of an analogy or a way of a syntax, which is a procedural way that we can begin to not only explore together, but share information in a dynamic that we kind of get it. And it wouldn't be flawed because it's so whole brain and coherent to our purposes here. So what would be the best way to kick off Monday's Live? With a conversation with drmike.org. So in this CARES model approach and doing community conversations, we would have some kind of movement. And I call it a self-liberation movement because we're helping people naturally get unstuck from their own stories, right? Stories that inhibit, hold back. You know, I'm not a psychologist. I couldn't handle someone who's psycho. There are professionals in that regard. I'm just looking to enhance perhaps a certain level of conscious life coaching that also is based, you could say, in structures of studying phenomenology. And the website for my current writing is phenombook.com. So P-H-E-N-O-M book.com. It's not done, and I have to go through and add references and things like that and go deeper. But it is a good foundational work. And I had a lot of sources coming to support me in this, because it's amazing in a modern context, at least that I've been able to find, we haven't addressed these issues, and it's right in front of us. So Awaken from the Mass Trance is my other writing, masstrance.com. So while it doesn't always inform a motivational Monday morning meeting, the goal is that we kind of wake up from the mass trance, which is the distraction and the hypnosis of society, to look at our priorities, particularly if we want to divine a desirable, sustainable future that's egalitarian and is enlightening, and would support the structures of who we are and how we show up in our modern day and age of this self. So it's some level of self-awareness. So self-awareness could mean a lot of things. Like what kind of, if we're talking about self-liberation, it might be getting out of the stuck self story, or revealing the true self, if there's something that is, you could say, impinged from being natural, who you are, coming from source and channeling this level of consciousness, which some people are calling nowadays the quantum, whatever that would be. So I have a formula that, at least in practice, supports the CARES model, community action research, and how we go about enlightened engagement. And that is, we show up in the way that we're, as social scientists, really observing. What are we observing? Obviously, it's us and the experience. That's pretty profound. Krishnamurti wrote a lot about this, as the observer being observed. Jiddu Krishnamurti, if you haven't heard of him, Google him. He was considered the world's teacher, and he said, I don't put titles. And I don't believe in any type of belief system or even religion, given that he was exalted and considered to be the next guru of this particular theosophy tradition. It's a great story. So whatever our stories are, if they're supporting our work they've gotten us to where we are, to where there's another aha or epiphany, a next level of awakening, well, this is an opportunity to become a bit more aware or conscious of what's described as the TWA, the flight we take every day, TWA, like the airline. To be conscious, at least to be a bit more aware of our thoughts. What is it that I'm thinking? And is this supporting you? And is it kind of, you're the thinker of the thoughts. Does it make sense to continue thinking in this regard? If so, continue on. Be who you are. That's what the freedom element is. Just have a little bit more awareness of the quality of our thinking and the quality of our words. That's the W, and are they wisdom, or, whoa. So thoughts, words, and actions. How am I actualizing this experience? So in the TWA, it's a presentation of self, how I'm showing up. And it's the construct of things that are being processed through my TWA thoughts and the quality of the words I'm using, whether I'm talking to myself, saying things about myself, or how I think you are thinking, and how I'm actualizing, and how am I acting, what's my act. So in this regard, I have a writing called The I Go, and this is really well, it's about 3 years old now. It took me about 2 years to convince the US PTO, it's the United States, Patent and Trademark Office, that this is a viable entity or a concept that you should give me the trademark on, the R versus just the TM. So I just got it 2 months ago, which was the end of December, end of 2024, which I think was a good, after almost 2 years, sort of like, we better just give it to them because things might change moving forward. So in this regard, in my podcast, mikesmastermind.com, I look at deciphering the quality of our experience. And I'm in New York right now. And if you heard the door slam in the background, I'm trying to enlighten people as they go out and I go, are you aware of the noise? That how it could be affecting people? Maybe because you're in New York, you're just used to it, honks and, people yelling on the street at you. It's like, all right, well, could we be a bit more attuned to our contributions in the space? So in this way, we tend to be less what I describe as messed up in the way that there's mental things that are the matter, things that are engaging emotionally and energy-wise are less that way and more enlightened, right? And so that also informs our space dynamics and the quality of our time together. And that's pretty profound because if you ask any physicist what there is, they'll tell you it's matter, energy, space, and time. So I've likened this as the fabric, matter, energy, space, and time in a psychic dimension, and where we philosophically and psychologically are living in the mess. Why not consider it that it is about these mental functions and the way they relate to what I describe in a morb reality. Morb is the modus operandi of rational behavior and how on the baseline function of consciousness, we're just getting by in the conduits of the system, whether, looking forward to retirement or getting a promotion or a raise or the next job or graduating, getting married, all these different life experiences in the way that they're profound because we have an experience of something that is an experience described for us. It's like, well, getting married or retiring. They're components unto themselves of a phase of life and also just entering into something of a dimension. And whether it's repairing a relationship, reconciliation, that are probably huge leaps for some, because as long as we remain in judgment, or pointing the finger, or defensive, or hidden in this morb, I really call it like a mask. The modus operandi of rational behavior is other than aware of its TWA and its true identity, which ID to me is internal dialogue. If we're not aware of what it is that we're saying to ourselves, then what the heck? That truly is living in the mass trance, masstrance.com. So all these different writings are bridges to come to some fruition of, you could say, identity freedom. So I can be who I want to be, but I'm not stuck in the realm that I'm going to take offense and go into some defensive, ego rant or tirade because I'm defending something that's made up, that's sort of like, hey, I believe in the integrity of our engagement and our time today in this interaction. I want it to be meaningful, valuable, and have some purpose and a little of striking of passion, right? To sort of ignite something. That's your MVP. We know MVP in our society as being the most valuable player, and that ought to be you. And if we're going to have a successful life or explore this dimensions of the quantum or this CARES model, community action research of enlightened engagement, there has to be some examination of who is the I that shows up and to be a bit I-aware and not to be overly, having to be stuck in my thinking, which is not the work. The work is not about that. It's not our goal. It's sort of have a more of a knowingness and this freedom of aha and epiphanies can be appreciated for what they are and where you're lovingly engaged. And this to me is ultra-being. Of an expression, if we're going to look at some kind of formula, UBE3, ultra being an excellent example of enlightenment as you express it, as you're able to experiment and explore these constructs and you live it. And that's sort of the dimension and why kicking off Mondays is a great way for us to come together in this regard for future group coaching as a VIP model and appreciation of our life experiences. And then we can enter into this quantum consciousness realm and explore enlightenment. UBE3, ultra being an excellent example of enlightenment. How is this channeled through you? How are you tapped in as source? And for some, it's a leap, and particularly if they know me from my past, they'll go, well, either this guy's evolved or he's really come up with the ultimate scam. He's the manipulator, Mike. I was thinking today about being called Mad Mike. But Dr. Mike has advised that you have to be an avatar these days to be online. And for me to get published and talk about these ideas, and I'd love for you to check out some of my work. A brief summary, you could say platter sampling is found at grandtourideas.com, grandtourideas.com. And there are links to more extensive writing And even those things are not quite complete. The Phenom is my current writing, is not linked through Grand Tour Ideas, but I'll mention that again. Phenombook.com, so Phenom. And the Phenom to me is examining the here and now. It's like, wow, we're present to something. Let's, as social scientists, explore and in the way that we can kind of get it, and whether it's the nomenclature, like how we can describe things. And again, I'm no guru, I'm no expert. Oh, the guy's so humble in the way that, I can appreciate having these experiences because I'm not that well read into philosophy at all or quantum physics at all, and certainly not in any social philosophy or a little bit of sociology and interest in social psychology, but sort of like, man, am I seeing something that hasn't been quite described or has, but yet there's another level or dimension that we can approach this in, and then I'll meet the right people and find the works that sort of like I can get, because I got too much ADD in my PhD to sort of like, I'll go off in multiple directions because I'm experiencing this quantumness, and it truly is appreciative inquiry. Like, wow, I have this opportunity to be here with you. And can we engage on such a level that explores this idea of UBE3? Because it's important, right? Ultra being our best, ultra being loving, ultra being attuned. What is ultra being? Because if we think about, personal philosophy or ontology, sort of examining the quality of our existence, why don't we quantify or qualify enlightened ultra being? What is this? And then how would we exemplify it? And so our demeanor and our manner, yes, becomes a bit refined and pristine because there is this appreciation of the here and now. How we're present is the gift that we have, because I just have this present time with you. So why make it anything other than? And if there's something to be excited about, or something has to be cleaned up from the past or reconciled or explored, okay. We come from this dimension, which then evolves into, hopefully, or starts off as a loving conversation. So lovingconversations.com is just sort of an ideology. And of course, you can study enlightened communication practices and those that are really great at conveying information, have loving rapport and connection. Yeah, let's model excellence and distill it in a way that we could be available. And there's total permission here. It's sort of like, hey, we're inviting you to something. There's no forcing. Or not, we're like, unless it's like, hey, the house is burning down. You need to get out of the house. So it's sort of like, hey, we need to look at our structures here. That everything on one level is fine. And the other way we know they're not quite right. Although we have to also associate that where consciousness is in our society or in the world today is where it's at. And that's just that. And anything else that's trying to push or make people wrong or adding more weight to people's already burdened shoulders, we have to be very delicate and careful in this regard. And that's why I call it the CARES model. And yet there has to be a way, at least for ourselves, to enlighteningly fit in, be in the mass trance, and yet awaken, have experiences that allow for enlightened, engagement. And that's kind of what I was talking about earlier on my other talk before, the hour before this. So again, mikesmastermind.com. I'll post some links, and I'm going to be starting a YouTube channel on this. And then we have our Mondays. So I'm looking to really create a community. So community conversations would really be great for us to come together and just share ideas. We could explore social issues, things that are relevant for us to consider, and just get to know each other. And that's another way of coming together in community. And our contributions then awaken from just me wanting to show up as ego or some kind of devaluation I need to sort of find, and you making me seem like I'm a good person or right, I have to be right, or you're wrong. Those kind of debates end, and we can kind of explore sort of both deconstructively, I call it the reckon, adding a W to reckon, how we can reckon our experience to where we can deconstruct the stress and the pressures and the things that have come into our schema, which is, you could say, the programming or computerization of our constructs. It's from conditioning and socialization. It is just what it is. And yet we can be informed that as they come up, we're not attached to them. So they came up like, oh, me bad, and I can release it. But I need to explain it because people have interest and there's permission granted. Otherwise, I don't go there. But why am I needing to defend a story or explain it to you? That's just going to eat up our time, right? It's that level of, now you could say, beyond stinking thinking that's going to allow for people to be who they are, and we honor them. And this love, this ultra beingness then kind of comes forward. And it's vibratory. It's just sort of the setting that we create in this new sort of found MEST. So out of MEST, matter, energy, space, and time, what really matters and what really is enlightening, engages emotionally and energetically. And the space is sacred, actually. It's sort of like a super conduit in the way that I'm loving this experience, and the space felt between us is excellent. And it makes for a really great time between us, and such an amazing time that this would be the best time ever. I mean, what else would it be? So I hope something in the way that, well, stepping stones, and yeah, they might be distractive, or at least experiments, thought Gendankins, as Einstein used the word Gendankins, to have thought experiments, to imagine things. As a social scientist, you have to be grounded in this ego endeavor, like understanding our projections. This is an action of me imagining myself in any realm, looking at myself on Mondays Live, calling myself a social scientist and podcast producer. What does that mean? Am I representing myself as an ego, or just an identifier in a way that people can understand you and they can get you, and getting you in the best way so you're clear, and it creates, in this way of being being a conduit, a connection. And this connection is almost cosmic, because tapped in on this level is the awakening, the aha, ultra being. So no longer, like, we are in the mass trance, but we're no longer byproducts of it. Do you get the difference? We can exist in the world as it is and appreciate that we're having this experience, in the way that we can help contribute to community or conscious awareness, whether you call it awakening or not, and even what is conscious or what is enlightened, we can all debate. But the idea is that at least we find the subject worthy of exploration, where we can drop our old pretenses, and the past was the past, and this is something new. It's the appreciation of the here and now. And that's what I'm going to go looking to do next, the next level of the Phenom writing. So again, phenombook.com. I'm drmike.org. I hope there was something here. There's a lot of information thrown at you. In the future, in different talks and on my channel, we'll departmentalize and we'll deconstruct, right? And we'll look at elegant models of the phenom, of understanding it, so we can be a bit more present in a way that's going to open up access, which will be the next book, to quantum consciousness, which I can't claim any knowledge, just have a sense of, right? Like we all do, like, ooh, it's intriguing. Well, I wonder what that is. What's the possibilities of quantum awareness? Or but anyway, that was me this week on Mondays Live.com. This is the first time I did live. Normally we have live guests every week. And I think this will be the new model, where we're going to evolve it more to the VIP. So if you are a life coach, a spiritual teacher in some regard, community leader, activist, and looking at an awakening so consciously, we can come together in a community that, as a conduit, through our conversation and the way that we show up in this ultra being state. And it's practice, right? It's a practice of being ultra being present, that we can really enlighten a new evolution, really, of sorts, consciously. Woo! What is it all about? drmike.org. And thank you for your interest in this. And please get back to me if this is something that sparks your interest, enlightens in any way. And please share it with your friends, somebody who think like, oh, they've got to hear this. And let's come together for webinars, community conversations, and potential cooperative ventures and workshops, and starting a friendship fellowship organization. That's a true ongoing community conversation. So please keep in touch. drmike.org again. Hey, this has been really wonderful. Thank you so much. This has been great.